Parents of Reddit. What is the most unsettling thing you have heard, seen your child do? My son walked into the room, but naked, holding a pair of scissors, and asked why his younger sister didn't have a P***ness. He never explicitly said he was thinking of performing surgery on himself, but we kept a close eye on him for a few weeks and hid all the scissors.
When my daughter was about 3 or 4, she started talking about the blue lady. My wife and I asked her who she was and were told I don't know, but she wants her hands back. Chills. This went on for a few weeks. The story never changed and it was always the blue lady needs her hands. We were seconds away from getting a priest or a witch in to bless the house. One morning, I'm watching TV and there is a woman in a blue US post office uniform saying thanks to blah blah and cream. I got my hands back. And my daughter comes running into the room screaming, "That's the blue lady. I love her." One evening I went to pick up my son at daycare. He must have been 2 or 3 yo. It was kind of dark in the parking lot as we walked to the car, but there was enough public lighting that we could see. Suddenly he stares into nothing special and says the man is not happy in a worried voice. I ask him who he is talking about and he answers the angry man. He is not happy. I'm not a believer in ghosts, but it did sound kinda creepy in that dark, empty parking lot. Anyway, back home I tell the story to my husband, and he tells me a couple days before on that same parking lot they encountered a homeless man who was rambling in an angry voice. So we assume that's who he was referring to. My bedroom is really dark during the night. Woke up to my daughter right in front of my face whispering "Mommy." All I could see was just a big shadow when I woke up. Scared the S out of me. My sons have done it too, just not as close to my face. She's also snuck into our room in the middle of the night and grabbed my foot to wake me up. Childhood fear was realized, except it was my own little monster instead of one that lives under the bed. I've also caught one of my sons smooshing his bits in between the toilet seat and bowl. He was taking forever in the bathroom, so I got up to check on him and saw him doing that. Think he was 5 at the time. Hi there. As a parent, I have to say that I am very concerned about the creepy things my child is capable of doing. I mean, come on, who would want to be friends with a kid who's always late for school and wears weird clothes? But I have to admit, there have been times when I have to pinch myself to make sure I'm not seeing things. You see, my child loves to do some pretty creepy things that I am not proud of. For example, he once wore a clown mask and walked around the house at night, loudly singing songs and making funny faces. It was just too much. I couldn't keep my eyes off him for fear of him harming himself or someone else. Another time, he decided to dress up as a clown and scare the living daylights out of me and my partner. It was hilarious at first, but as the night wore on, we started to feel so scared that we had to lock ourselves in the bathroom. And then there are the times when he comes home with scars and bruises from playing with toys that he found in the street. He doesn't seem to mind hurting himself, and I don't know how to stop him from doing it. I mean, he says he's just playing, but I can't help but worry about his safety. I wish I could say that he's just being silly, but I just don't think that's the case. So, as a parent, I'm starting to think that my child might actually be a monster. I used to believe in ghosts. I would often play around with the thought that there were spirits around us, and that they could befriend us or even harm us. I remember one particular night, my brother and I were playing with matches when I accidentally set the living room on fire. I panicked and tried to put it out, but it was too late. The flames were spreading quickly, and we both knew that we had to get out of there. We managed to escape unharmed, but my mind was filled with fear and doubt. I couldn't shake the thought that there was something out there, something that could harm us without our knowledge. As I grew older, I started to question whether my fear of ghosts was really based on reality, or if it was just something that I had created in my mind. But then, I had an experience that really shook me to my core. My son had a friend who was afraid of ghosts, and they would often play games about ghosts. One day, my son's friend brought up the topic of ghosts, and my son, being curious, asked him if he had ever seen one. To his surprise, his friend said that he had once seen a ghost in their backyard. To this day, I can't believe that my son's friend actually saw a ghost. I know that it's just a game, but I still felt violated. That experience taught me that ghosts do exist, and that they can be real. It also made me realize that it's important to educate our children about the dangers of believing in things that are not real, and to discourage them from engaging in activities that could harm them. In conclusion, as parents, we need to be aware of the things our children are exposed to, especially regarding ghosts. It's important to educate them and to encourage them to be curious, but also to be cautious about their beliefs. Thank you for listening. My daughter was playing in the backyard one day, and I quickly went inside to do something in the kitchen on our first floor. I did not go upstairs to the bedrooms at all. After a minute or so I came back out. She said, "Mommy, why were you in my room? I saw you look out the window at me." This freaked me out because we were the only people home at the time. I said I didn't go upstairs, and she insisted she saw me look out her window. With great hesitation I went upstairs to look around, but nobody was in my house, lol, ghost or otherwise. My son went through a phase when he was 6 where he would write "help me, let me out" on everything. It was on all his drawings, and he'd write it outside on the side of the house for the neighbors to see. Then he started writing "help me" backwards, like some redrum S. Turns out he was really into Goosebumps, and one of the episodes has a girl trapped in a mirror writing "help me." To the people looking into the mirror, "help me" was backwards. Mystery solved. My kid is just a bit theatrical. For a few weeks my daughter started panicking at bedtime about the parents that would visit her during the night. It escalated to some serious nightmares and terrors, and was also creepy as hell. We asked her a lot of questions regarding, are the parents us? Are they your friend's parents? It's always no, just the parents. A few weeks into it my wife is driving down the road with her and she freaks out. "Ma, look, it's the parents." It was scarecrows. Somehow she thought scarecrows were called parents, and of course scarecrows are creepy. It was also Halloween, so yeah, she was terrified. I caught my nephew bringing food to a dead wolf he named Cody. We all thought Cody was a friend from school because he had a classmate named Cody that he would go hang out with. Nope. I followed him to Cody's house, which was a cave about 50 feet out of town in the woods, and there was all sorts of wrappers from snacks, and a decaying wolf's body. My son had an imaginary friend named Xavier, but Xavier was the ghost of a little boy who was in his room. He'd have whole conversations with this supposed ghost. It was very creepy. He forgot all about him within a few weeks of starting preschool and has no memory of him now. I was pregnant, waiting my second child, and my firstborn was about 2 years old. She had some speech delays and usually formed sentences containing max 2 or 3 words. Anyhow, I was making dinner and my daughter was in the kitchen with me. Suddenly she looks at me, points up with her finger and states calmly and matter-of-factly, "I used to watch you from up there." I had no words for her. I simply turned around and stared at her. She smiled and ran off to play. Now I wish I would have asked her more about what she meant by that. My partner's nephew was really into commercial jingles when he was about 4. Grandma was babysitting one night and, after she had put the kid to bed, she fell asleep on the couch in the living room. Now, this was one of those wrap-around couches with a high back, so someone who is the height of a 4-year-old can't really be seen coming down the hallway by someone laying on the couch. Well, around 1 a.m. Grandma is woken up by a small child's voice slowly singing "Nationwide is on your side" from somewhere in the dark behind her. Scared her silly. Thanks, Brad Paisley. Me and my 15-month-old share a room, and sometimes she just stares at me while I sleep. It freaks me out when I wake up and the first thing I see is a tiny child staring at me. To make it worse, sometimes she just stares and whispers at me, and it sounds like she's putting a curse on me. When my kid was around 2-ish, she told me one morning, "Mommy, the ghost picked me up last night." I've never talked to her about ghosts or used the word ghost or anything along those lines, something she could have easily picked up at daycare or from a kid's show or something. A few years later, when she was around 5-ish, she was like, "Mommy, remember how I used to cry at night?" She was a terrible sleeper and would wake up like 4+ times a night and cry until we came to get her. She said it's because the ghost used to come into my room and pick me up at night. While I'm a parent, the creepiest thing I've experienced was while at work at a childcare center. I work with infants and we have a sleep room, sort of separated from the play area. I imagine many infant rooms work this way, but that's beside the point. The sleep room was dark since we had set it up for nap time while the children ate their lunch when one of the boys looked into the darkness, smiled, waved and said hi. I looked over to the room and there was definitely nothing there. He was pretty friendly though and would usually smile, wave and say hi to people as they walked past the room. I asked my coworker if she would mind putting the kids to sleep that day as she hadn't heard him say this. Yes, I sacrificed my coworker to the ghost along with the children. They had a good run.